Well, hello and welcome to the Mythology of Astrology with my psychic connection. I'm Squirrel, and today I will be telling you the stories of Taurus. Now, let me explain that because I know you heard that plural in there. So, all of the earth energy sun signs, all three of them, have more than one story. Some of them have lists, and it's like all the other sun signs, fire, earth, air, and water, they have one definitive story. You know what the story is and you know where you're going to go with it. But Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus, they just can't decide. I, I don't know why. And today I'm going to tell you two stories that I chose because they show the best Taurus energy. A lot of the other stories that they assigned to Taurus, it felt like it was only assigned to Taurus because there was a bull in the story. So I'm going to tell you the ones that explain the energy of Taurus. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Taurus is. And it is one of the oldest and it is the largest constellation in the sky. Now, it can be seen in both the northern and the southern hemispheres, and not all constellations can. Though in the southern hemisphere, the Taurus, the bull, is upside down. So I don't know how he runs, but I guess he does. So Taurus has a history of being a strong symbol, both as the bull and as the constellation. And even from over 10,000 years ago, we found there goes that squirrelism with that Mercury retrograde. We found cave paintings in Lascaux that depict Taurus with one of the oldest star clusters called the Pleiades, which is part of what makes Taurus up. So not only is it one of the oldest constellations in the sky, but as far as we know, as far as we have records of, it has always been the bull. And that's not true of the other stars. Some of the other star signs, they've changed over time, but Taurus has always been the bull. Now, in Sumerian mythology, Taurus is compared to Gilgamesh, the king of Babylonia, who had to kill a bull in order to prove his worth. Usually, the bull gets the bad end of the stick. It dies, it's evil, all kinds of things. But with these two stories, the energy of Taurus really shines through. So we're going to start with the oldest written story about Taurus that took place in Homer's Iliad back in 8th century BC. So this story is over 2,000 years old and one of the few written records that we still have. Okay? So there was a beautiful girl named Europa, and she was the daughter of King Agenor. King Agenor was the son of Poseidon, the god of the ocean. And Europa's mother was Telephassa, who was the daughter of Nilus, an Egyptian god of the Nile, and Nephele, who was also Chrysomelus's mother, who we learned about in Aries, and she was a cloud nymph. So she had very powerful parents who were children of the gods, both Egyptian and Greek gods, and they made this incredibly beautiful daughter, their only daughter. She was so beautiful that everybody stopped in their tracks to watch her walk by. And not only was she beautiful, but she was kind. She was gentle. She had a huge heart. Pretty sure she was an empath because she just understood people and things around her to a degree that was just amazing. So being the only daughter of King Agenor, who was the king of Phoenicia, of Tyre in Phoenicia, please excuse that, she was extremely protected. She had four older brothers that were always watching her like hawks, and her brother or her father was very protective of her as well. And she was also pretty intelligent. She wasn't one of those who would run off and do willy nilly things. She had a good head on her shoulders and she thought things through. She was just like the best of both worlds. Don't hate her because she's beautiful. So the king of the gods, Zeus, heard about Europa and he decided that he had to go see her. And when the moment he saw her, he was like, oh, I need her because, of course, she was beautiful. And Zeus had a need to possess anything that he found beautiful. But he watched her for a while because her brothers, remember, they were watching like hawks. They went everywhere she went, and including multiple guards on top of her brothers. So he figured out how smart she was too. And he said, I just can't go snatch her up. She'll fight me. And I want her to be mine. And he watched her for a while. And while he watched her, he actually fell in love with her. Now, Zeus is known for having affairs with just about anything that moves. Now, humans, other goddesses, I'm sure there are some stories about animals involved. Zeus he liked sex. He was pretty much a wham bam, thank you, ma'am type of guy, and had a great many affairs. And if he had any children from the tryst, he would help take care of the children, but he wasn't deep into love. He wasn't deep into sticking around, but he absolutely fell head over heels in love with Europa. So he decided he would use patience and beauty to draw her in. So he turned himself into a white bull, and not just any white bull. His hair was iridescent, and though it was white, it shined with all kinds of beautiful colors like a rainbow, almost like an opal. And he had mother of pearl horns, which were so perfect that the light danced along the edges in another rainbow of color. And his little forelock was in the shape of a moon, and it shined silver. He was absolutely gorgeous, like one of the most beautiful sights you could ever see. So Europa and her female friends would always go to the beach and they would gather flowers and make garlands and they'd gossip and laugh and tell stories to each other and just have a lot of fun. So one day, this gorgeous bull shows up at the beach and he just stood there watching. And at first, all the girls and even Europa's brothers were like, oh God, stay away from him. That's a bull. They will tear you up. That is terrifying. Don't go anywhere near it. So they watched him while he was watching them every day for an entire year. Zeus came to the beach and just stood there looking beautiful and staying calm and trying to pretend to be sweet. So finally they were like, hmm, maybe we can trust this bull. Maybe we can make a garland for its hair and make it even prettier. So they made some garlands and they slowly walked up to the bull. He didn't move. He just stood there. Patience, patience. And then Europa reached up really slowly to place the garland on his head. And Zeus leaned down and he nuzzled her hair so gently that all the girls were like, oh, they just melted. So the next year, Zeus came to the beach as a bull every day again. And for the full year, the girls would pet him, weave flowers into the tuft in his forelock, braid them into his tail, and just generally coo at him and love on him. And Zeus just stood there and allowed all of these indignities, the king of gods, with flowers braided into his tail. Okay? He even allowed them to paint his hooves in all different colors. So he only wanted to get Europa to trust him and he stayed patient. So The girls and even Europa's brothers slowly did become to trust him, and they enjoyed his company, and all of them absolutely adored him. So Zeus came every day for 1 more year, strengthening his image of being gentle and worthy of trust. On the last day of the third year, he walked onto the beach. He kneeled down onto his forelegs, and he cocked his head at Europa. She was like, I think he wants me to climb on his back. So she went over. She was a little scared because this is the first time she'd done anything like this. Excuse me. And she climbed onto his back. He stood up and she grabbed his mane and she gave a shaky little laugh like, and Zeus took slow, steady steps. He made his way to every single one of the girls accompanying Europa to give them little kisses, little nuzzles. And every day for about a month, Zeus would kneel down and Europa would climb on his back for a lazy stroll around the beach. Then one day, he started moving a little bit faster. No one thought anything of it. It's been 3 years and a month that this bull has been hanging around. So they knew he was gentle and sweet. But as he got closer to the water and further away from Europa's friends and brothers, he started running. Europa was startled and she grabbed onto his mane. All the other people on the beach were screaming, no, no, because Zeus was running straight for the ocean. And they started running toward the waters themselves, but it was too late. Zeus was moving so fast, nobody could catch him. And Europa couldn't jump off or she would have died. So by the time the bull plunged into the water, all Europa could do was hang on for dear life. Now Zeus swam for 3 days and 3 nights, and all Europa could do that whole time was just hold on to his mane. She was terrified. Now they traveled all the way to an island called Crete, where the bull lay down on the beach and gently rolled over so she could fall off of his back. Then he turned into human form, and Europa was stunned. She was weakened by hunger, weakened by thirst and a lack of sleep, and all she could do was lay there and go, she couldn't even say a word. Now, Zeus could have had his way with her right then, but he actually loved her. So he picked her up ever so gently, carried her to a tree, and lay her down in the shade and nursed her back to health. Now, he isn't known for his gentleness. That right there lets you know that he loved her. And everyone knew that Zeus was the type of god to just take what he wanted no matter what, and often by force. So, with her so defenseless, she really did expect him to have his way with her. That's how he usually was, and everybody knew it. He was a god, and he didn't have to follow mortal laws. So that right there was very, very un-Zeus like. He truly, truly treasured her. So it took some time to nurse her back to health. He worked on earning her trust again because he had violated that trust. And then, after some time, when he earned that trust back, he asked her to be his concubine. She couldn't be his wife, he already had a wife. So she agreed, and together they had 3 sons. The names of those sons, and you may have heard of them if you know any mythology: King Minos, the king of Crete. And there are so many stories about him alone. I hope you guys look them up because he was pretty amazing. And then there's Rhadamanthus, who became one of the 3 judges of the dead. And there's Sarpendor, who established the Greek metroplex of Miletus in Asia Minor. So all 3 of their sons were very prominent in Greek history. And Zeus also gave Europa 3 gifts. Now, he wasn't known for gifting his mistresses for much more than offspring, and he usually only helped take care of the children, like I said earlier. But he loved her so much that he did gift her. He made a bronze automaton for him, a giant robot back in 3,000 years ago. They're talking about this giant robot, but it was called an automaton, and his name was Talos. Talos served as Europa's guard and was always there to protect her. The second gift was a dog named Lelaps. Now, this dog could hunt down anything and bring it home. Anything she wanted, whether it was animal, mineral, or what's the other one? I can't remember. Gems, fabrics, you name it. This dog could find it and bring it to her. Criminals, everything. And the third gift was a javelin that had the power to hit any target, no matter how far away the target was or how fast it was moving. Three very magical items that he gifted her for love. Then he put the constellation of Taurus into the sky to remind her of his love for her and how he had courted her as a bull. Now, obviously, this particular story is not one of the common Greek tragedies. This is a true love story that shows that Zeus had a heart and how he won the love of a beautiful, wonderful woman with patience and kindness. And remember earlier I said Europa could never marry Zeus, but he did allow her to marry Astraeus, the first king of Crete, who adopted all three of her sons and made her the first queen of Crete. She was so good to her people and so loved that she will ever be known as the godmother of Europe. So her name is immortal and will live forever. And I love that story. One of the few Greek stories that has a happy ending and is a love story. Now, my second story, of course, is about another bull, but this bull was quite different. He was not kind, he was not patient, and he was not loving at all. He was this enormous, and I mean enormous, terrifying, fast bull that just destroyed everything that came into his path. It would just get so riled up that it could destroy towns, villages, and even large cities. Now, keep him in mind. There was a goddess named Persephone, and this is about this bull in Persephone. Persephone was known as the goddess of spring, but she was also the queen of the underworld. Half the year she would live in the underworld with her husband Hades, and the other half she would live on the surface of earth with her mother Demeter. So one year when Persephone was able to come visit her mother, all the village people were talking about this enormous crazy bull that was destroying everything, and they were terrified. They told her, "There's an immortal bull. He leaves a path of destruction in his wake everywhere, and no one can stop him. So many heroes have died trying to take this bull down, but nothing touches it." Persephone thought about it a minute and she was like, "No, no, he's not immortal. I know every immortal there is. Every single one of them has to come do business with me and my husband in the underworld at some point. So I've never heard of this bull. There is no way that he's immortal, but I will go check him out and see what I can do to help." She was pretty protective of her people and she would have done anything for them. She took great care of them when she was home, and she was also really, really social when she was on the surface of the earth because being in the underworld can put a damper on your social life. Okay. So she started looking and she asked where he was last seen and headed that way. Now, some villagers offered to escort her, but she reminded them that while she was immortal, they were not, as gently as she could. And when she just took off by herself because she didn't want anyone she loved to get hurt. And she got to the city where the bull was last seen, and she found the city completely, and it was a big city, completely and utterly destroyed. Splinters of wood, even splinters of marble, Everything was rubble. Full buildings were nothing but debris. It it was pretty frightening. Everything in ruins. So she saw his hoof prints in the debris and she began to follow him. But she was careful because she didn't want to startle him because he was already obviously a pretty angry bull, right? So she heard suddenly a stomp, 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 and things falling down. She followed the sound, but she realized that she was actually intimidated. Persephone was afraid. For an immortal to be afraid, that's a big deal, okay? She thought this bull must be the size of a house or bigger. How can it be this big if it's not immortal? And finally, she saw him. He was gargantuan, okay? Now she tried to sneak up behind him, but she was so focused on watching him that she stepped on a twig and it snapped. Like she stopped in her tracks and was like, oh shit. And then the bull turned around and looked at her and lowered his head. You know how bulls lower their heads when they're going to attack you. So he just watched her. He didn't attack. He just watched with his ears flat and his teeth bared. So she crept a little bit closer and he backed up a little bit, like, mm-mm. So gently and slowly she got a little closer. And when she was almost close enough to touch him, he snorted and she jumped back and it looked like the bull laughed. He went, she said, did I just make that bull laugh? And it kept on looking at her. So she got down on her hands and her knees and she looked up at him and she said, what's your name? And the bull was like, huh? No one's ever spoken to me. People have yelled at me and cussed at me and tried to kill me, and no one's ever, ever, ever spoken to me at all. And he thought for a minute and he said, my name is Ceres. And Persephone just jumped up and she ran to the top of the hill and started rolling down the hill and giggling out of the blue. And the bull was like, what? What is she doing? And he ran after her. And when he saw her rolling down the hill, he said, that looks like fun. And he started rolling down the hill after her. And then they started running and playing and jumping and talking, getting to know each other. And they quickly became best friends. Ceres had never been spoken to. He was never, ever acknowledged. He felt he had no purpose except to destroy. But just by asking his name, who are you? She said, I see you. Persephone turned him into a different bull altogether. So when she was on the surface, they were never apart after that, not for a second. Their bond became so strong, with her being the goddess of spring. Everywhere Ceres walked, flowers bloomed. If they walked through a city that was hungry, food sprouted under his feet. It was amazing. And they were never, like I said, never apart. So if Persephone was on the surface, Ceres was with her. There's, if she was in the underworld, he was angry and confused and alone. Their friendship, though, was so powerful for the people and for the gods. Zeus decided to help Ceres and put Taurus, the constellation for Ceres, into the sky. So that way, whenever Persephone was in the underworld, Taurus was in the sky and not able to hurt anybody. And when she was on the surface, he could come home and be with her. So that is another story of Taurus. So I hope that helps you understand some of the energy of Taurus. Of course, it doesn't cover it all, but it lets you see what's going on and where all these parts of the astrology came from. So if you've got any questions, I would love, love, love to answer them. So we've got some people here.
All right. That was a great story, and it was two stories. We got some hearts and stuff going on for you, and some bulls.
Thank you guys. I love those. Thank you. All right. Rebecca says, "Hey Squirrel, my mama was a Taurus 422. Barely made it. LOL." Taurus energy is absolutely beautiful energy. It's usually very calm, very thoughtful. It processes its thoughts before it acts. So some people think they're slow, they're just thorough. Um, and Danny and Jay are here. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here. And we were coming to send love. Thank you guys. So, and Kelly's here and Rebecca. I love it. Energy. So, we, and Energy says, I love the way you tell these mythological stories, girl. Thank you. I love telling them. I just want to share them. And I want to help people understand the origins and the root of what the astrology signs are. And I love the way that those two stories, the first showed the patience and the stamina that Zeus had as the bull, and then with Ceres being misunderstood and not acknowledged, and the anger and the frustration that can come from Taurus. And it's like the full spectrum where patience is just the same thing as stubbornness. It's just when it's when we understand that patience, it's not a bad thing. Does that make sense?
It does. It definitely makes sense. But it also shows the emotional. You saw a positive, and then you saw the negative,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah. And go ahead.
understanding the Taurus. A Taurus is one of those signs that is needing to be understood, or it won't come near you.
That's yeah, yeah. That's very true. And I'll ever since Taurus came into the sun sign for this year, you've been letting us know in the shows that you've been doing. One
Mm,
thing that so many people don't realize is that Taurus is full of emotion. Just because they can be quiet and they don't share a lot of their emotion and thought, it's they don't know how, they don't know what to do to process that. So you have been nailing it, and so many people forget that.
absolutely.
And Kelly says, so during the 6 months he was in the sky, we could see it clearly. But when the spring comes, is his visibility? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the, the, because of the time and how each year has a little bit of an extra time with like daylight savings, over 3,000 years, it's shifted a little bit. So Taurus might be in the sky a little later. Yeah, but not by much. And Energy says these myths show how the personality or energy of the signs have come into being. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the root of them. And Energy says, so agreed. They internalize their emotions. I am so glad you said that because Taurus is feminine, earth, and fixed as far as what their modalities are. So what that means is fixed is they don't like change. It's either something that doesn't like change or it's something that is right perfectly in the middle. It's the middle of something or that's stubborn. All the fixed signs have a stubbornness to them. And earth is down to earth, grounded. They've got common sense, logic. There's a lot to them that people don't understand. That's where logic lives. Everybody thinks it's air, but it's often earth as well. And then feminine, the difference between feminine and masculine, feminine internalizes. Everything happens on the inside, and they internalize it before they express it. Masculine is external. You hear everything even before they figured it out. So the feminine signs like to figure it out first, and Taurus is feminine, ruled by Venus. Kelly said, "Yes, I have a friend that's a true Taurus." And Jayana says, Jay, they are stuck on a constant cycle of analysis of their own self. They certainly are. If that certainly makes sense, that absolutely makes sense. And energy says practical logic as opposed to analytical logic. I love that. I'm borrowing that. That was beautiful.
In the stories themselves, in the first story, you see the bull with patience waiting. Once the bull was trusted, once the bull is trusted, it went in with all love. And when it shows its love, it expects you to trust them 100% to create that bond. And the second story, it did the same thing. Once it was spoken to and got that love, that bond, it became, you know, that's what they say, Taurus are great lovers. Once
Oh,
they feel that love, they want to give it, they want to receive it, and without it, they're lost.
and truly loyal.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things about Taurus, and it has to do, okay, Taurus and Scorpio are in opposition, and a lot of times opposite signs have severe similarities. Like both Taurus and Scorpio are fixed, and feminine, right? But the difference between Taurus and Scorpio, they're both great lovers, but Scorpio is incredibly sexual, physical, and Taurus is sensual. It's all tactile, it's all about touch, it's all about sharing, it's all about the kisses. It's more sensual. I'm sure that they're sexual as well, but sensuality comes first with them. So they're beautiful. In fact, when I grow up, I want to be a Taurus.
Huh.
That's the one sign I would choose to be. So.
But the thing is that with Taurus, both of those stories gave you a sense of both emotions. Well, actually, three of the emotions. Patience being one, whether
Mhm.
people realize it or not, that is an emotion.
Yes, it is.
And so you've got your patience, and then you've got your love, you got your understanding, but you also have your sadness. You got that pissed off energy too, because he had to put him in the sky in order to maintain his happiness until he was able to return in the second, or when she was able to return in the second story. When she returned, he was allowed to come, frolic, and play, because within his, in that sadness also came anger, which came back to destruction. So in order to keep him in his happiness, or Taurus in the happiness, he would have to be placed in the sky until he was able to return.
Yeah, he had, at that point, by the time that, he became the better bull, and Jay says most people don't have common sense. They have way too much. The Taurus have way too much. Yeah, they do. It's like, erg. And Squirrel, a separate piece of info. We have some crazy squirrel reels. Danny says he is not feminine. Okay, so, all right. And then I'll remember what I was saying. And LOL. Feminine is not a matter of um of being like a girl, and masculine is not a matter of being like a man. It's more about that internal external, how they process things, how they relate things. Like I'm considered extremely masculine because I am very extroverted. I'm a little bit forceful, you know. I'm very feminine as far as regular terms go, but astrological terms, feminine means something completely different. We could see it as masculine as positive and feminine as negative. That doesn't mean that men good, female bad. It means that think of it, okay. So I have a plug. I don't have any plugs here, but if you can think of a wall plug that you plug into the outlet, the plug itself that you plug into the wall, that's masculine. It inserts itself, and but the wall receptacle is the feminine. It's what takes the plug, but they work together. You can't get the electricity without either one of them. And the feminine, the wall plug, holds the electricity, and the thing you plug in takes the electricity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, oh no. And that's part of the feminine and masculine thing. So I, I know what I was saying. By the time Ceres and Persephone had become friends. It was like a 6 month period. She found him early on, and Energy says, love that analogy, explains it really well. Thank you, Energy. So they had come in contact with a great many people, and all of a sudden, instead of feeling fear and running away from him, people were loving him. He was feeding them, he was bringing them joy. Imagine seeing this giant bull frolicking with Persephone. I mean, it's got to make you smile. And Jay says he was raised with 3 girls. He definitely knows he's not. Poor Danny. And Jay says animated. So people were acknowledging him at that point. But his loyalty and his love for Persephone were so deep that he could not handle being away from her. He'd gone from angry to lonely, and he did not know how to handle it, so he had to be removed. He
But
did not know.
that also shows in Taurus today. When they get
Oh
to
yes,
that's what we get. That's what we call the sad Taurus. The
when
sad
they don't
Taurus.
know.
Yep.
And part of the problem that a Taurus might have with processing is they internalize everything, and if you
Mhm.
only internalize everything, you don't get any other point of view, so you keep looping around it and looping around it and looping around it. They have a hard time unless they have Leo or Gemini in their chart. Ferdinand the Bull, yes, energy. And Jay says one of the best stories, Ferdinand the Bull. Yes, yes, I love him. He's Taurus. But one of the things that helps us understand what we feel is being able to communicate and having someone let us see a different perspective. So if if they're internalizing everything, and of all the signs, of all the feminine signs, Taurus is well, Scorpio's pretty close. I'm going to say they're neck and neck. They're the worst at sharing what they're feeling. They just really have a hard time with it. Unless like I said, they have Leo or Gemini or poor Taurus that has any Libra in it. I feel sorry for. So
Because that's not balance.
no. Could you imagine being naturally prone to answering with and having Libra or Gemini or Leo energy, and but oh shit, I wasn't even say that. I wanted to keep it to myself. And energy says Taurus emotionally goes to ground. Yes. Yes. But that's not always a good thing because sometimes you need outside input to really understand what you're feeling or what you're going through. And if you don't have somebody who understands that or you can't communicate that, that feeling of loneliness is
Mhm.
overpowering. It sure
Well,
is.
like being placed in the sky until spring you know, came back around, being placed in the sky. This is kind of like when Taurus goes into that moment of over analyzing themselves. It's like that's their sky moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they have to sit
Far
until
removed.
yeah, far removed, and wait until they comprehend what they need to comprehend about themselves.
And Jay says, no communication with others or the people that love them. And oh my gracious, it is hard on the people that love them because the people that love them want to be there for them and want to talk to them and help them.
Mm-hmm.
And pure Taurus energy won't allow that. It's like, I got this. And Jay says Cancer does that as well. Oh yes. Oh yeah. My life is full of beautiful Cancer men that do that. Hmm. So I know, yeah. And Jay says, yeah, unless they find their other half. And even then it's sometimes hard to get them to communicate. It's like, are you okay? I think that's the phrase Taurus made up. Right? And that means everything. It means I want a glass of water, or dinner was great, or I'm not in a good mood, or and energy says, yep, Cancer back into their shell. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and once a Cancer retreats from you and goes into their, first of all, you know you've done something wrong, right? And then getting them back out of their shell, and both, well, both Cancer and Taurus, and this is the feminine energy, and they're the strongest at this. If you betray them or hurt them, winning their trust back,
Good luck.
yeah, it's like, yeah, it ain't gonna happen. And
Good.
Jay says, go ahead.
Oh, I just said good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Jay says, Leo/Virgo. He loves me so much he doesn't want to talk to anyone else. Aw. And then I can or can't get him to shut up.
I'm assuming
Like,
can't get him to shut up.
can't. Leo Virgo? No, you can't. It's like and and energy said, oh yeah. So yep. So
But
does any go ahead?
well, they say when Cancer goes into their shell, that's because they're back there delete. They went to their computer, and anything on you that has anything of a nice quality. Now, this is the mad side of Cancer, is automatic delete. And what they do is they hold on to that negative, so that way they never find themselves back and falling into your trust or falling into your love. It's not that they're holding on to a grudge, but it's not for you or not for them to lash out at you. It's so they remind themselves, this is all the pain you went through. You will not repeat this.
And Cancer especially. Taurus, it takes a minute because Taurus is fixed. And Taurus, once it gives its loyalty, most of the time, Taurus will give its loyalty well beyond the expiration date. It almost has to be rock thrown at to say, okay, I'm done. But once it gets to I'm done, it does not look back. Where Cancer is very cardinal. Once it says, hey, this ain't right, it's quicker to pick up that people are an asshole to them. And once it says, I'm done, they never look back. They just, it's like they have a pair of scissors and they just cut all ties and they'll never even think about you again. Cancer knows how to let something go. I want that trait.
We'll have to do a show where we find traits in each sign that we would want.
Ooh, That would be fun.
Yes, it would be. And
Jay says, when you find your person, I'm so glad Danny found you. And she said, ouch, rough. And but you're animated enough. I'm sure you make it work. So true, Journey. I'm a little confused.
these were all happening while we were talking.
Oh, okay, okay. My necklace keeps falling down, you guys. It's like, so
But
are there any?
when it comes to Taurus, that's the one thing people fail to remember as the emotion. This, and it's not just like when you hear the word emotion, you think what they're putting out into the world. Is that Taurus is one of those ones that will self-destruct itself.
Yes, yes. And they're often misunderstood.
Yes, but they need to vote. They need to vocalize that what is bothering them rather than hiding from it and grounding. But the grounding takes so long that everybody else becomes impatient to try to find out, you know, are you eventually going to tell us what's wrong? No one wants to hold on to it as long as Taurus wants to process it. Taurus wants to process it over and over and over again. And people become impatient.
This is true.
And that's where you get that idea, that bullheadedness.
And Jay said to erase you for you put for, to put you on blast. Yeah, yeah, that does ouch rough. They put you in that folder.
Mm-hmm.
And Taurus will hold a grudge. They will hold a grudge, and you will feel that grudge. Cancer just won't have nothing else to do with you. They're like, we're done. I don't.
That's
I
their
don't even want
torture.
to. I'm not wasting one iota on emotion on you. That's Cancer. Don't piss Cancer off, y'all. Don't piss Taurus off either because you'll feel it. And energy says also the house placement also influences in what area of life it is the most strong. Absolutely. House placement has a great deal to do with it. House placement, what planet is in Taurus, aspects, all of it has, they all interconnect. We are not one single one of us, just one kind of energy. Like I'm a Leo, but I am not just a Leo. A Taurus will never be just a Taurus except maybe once in a million years. And I don't think I've ever heard of all the planets lining up in one single sign. It may have happened. It might happen in a million years. I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up now. But nobody is one single energy. We are all made up of all 12 energies. It's just where planets live in those energies are what makes, those bring out the stronger pieces of those energies, but we also have them by house. So we are complex, we are contradictory, often contradictory, and we are beautiful divine beings that carry all of the universe's energies.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And we've got our next story is going to be in Gemini, the twins. Now that
That'll
one,
be a little bit longer.
and the tearjerker, from my understanding.
That is my absolute favorite, not only zodiacal mythology, but mythology, period, is the Gemini twins. And I've never told it to an audience, but I've told it, out loud, getting the story straight in my head. And I can't even think about that story in my head, like what, no, without crying. And I just, bleh, bleh, bleh. But it is an absolutely beautiful, stunning. And nowadays, Gemini has just the nastiest rap. And the story of Gemini will let you see so much more deeply into what Gemini truly is. Truly is. That's all of these. That's what they do. Except for one. It only shows one side. And You'll find out which one that is when I get to it, huh?
And when we get to that one, I'll tell you about the stories of the actual twins that I know that were born in Gemini.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
because of their personalities, I knew the difference between the two of them without anybody else. Everybody else had to go, which one are you? And I'm like, you can't tell? And they're like, no. I was like, well, I got this. And don't get me wrong, they both tried to trick me, but it didn't work in their favor.
I no, no. Plus, Journey, you can feel them, so you
Yeah,
definitely knew who was who.
yeah, that too, but definitely that was like,
All right, you have a good night, Jay. We love you.
all
Tell
right,
Danny we love him too.
all right, guys. Did anybody else have any questions about Taurus? Tonight was more of a discussion of Taurus.
The what of Taurus?
This has been more of a discussion.
Oh yeah, that they were both short stories. The other stories were really just assigned to Taurus because they had bulls in them and had nothing to do with the energy.
That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Had
Yeah.
nothing to do with Taurus at all.
So Gemini will be here a minute longer. A couple of minutes longer. Gemini is a long story, but some of them are truly short.
Yeah. All
So,
right, guys.
and just like Taurus ain't got much to say, right?
Exactly.
Or has a lot to say, just won't say it.
Exactly. Fighting them to get to that story. Tell us what it is. You know, tell us what's bothering you. That's the thing of Taurus is that, you know, get us it's okay to talk. It's
Yeah.
okay to, but don't put on the persona that nothing's bothering you, because that's the internalizing, because they want to process it first.
Yeah. Yeah, because they want to make sure they understand it before they say it. So people don't think that they're crazy or stupid or shouldn't feel that way. And energy says, can't wait for Gemini. I cannot wait to tell you guys Gemini. That is my absolute favorite story. And Jay says, no, it is not possible, but it would be bad. So, and she gave me squirrels and nuts and hearts. Thank you. And she said, you guys rock. Thank you. I wonder
Oh,
if you like asteroid rocks. Think
I
so?
think that,
In the
and
sky.
that's another story with the asteroids. That's a whole other story. Which sign was that one? Scorpio.
Ooh, Scorpio. Ooh, that's a cool story, but
Mm,
it's not for young people.
no, it is not.
Yeah. And energy says they also like to do things at a slower pace. Absolutely. Absolutely. They like to
I
take their time.
love how she said they love to do things at a slower pace. When I read for them, I said you like to do things at your pace. Everybody else calls it a slower pace, but it is Taurus's pace.
Yes.
It's not. It's if other people around them are being patient, they'll say a slower pace. But in reality, you ever notice a bull does things when they want to?
Right. And then if you
When
piss them
you want.
off or get them
Yep.
motivated, they can move pretty damn fast.
Oh yeah.
But it takes a lot to get them to that point. You just
Mm-hmm.
don't ever corner one. And never ever force one to do something that they're not ready to do because you
That
ain't getting that tourist to move.
you've heard the sign, the saying, a bull in a china shop.
Yes. Yeah.
They will destroy that china shop.
That
Make
would be okay. Imagine being a Taurus and having Gemini or Sagittarius energy, needing like psychologically to move at that so slow pace. And then that Gemini or Sagittarius energy jumps in and triggers something, and you're moving real fast, you're going to be clumsy. And the energy said they sure do.
yes. Yes, they do. They do
Yeah.
things at their own pace, but that doesn't mean that it's a slower pace. It's just at their pace, how they're comprehending, when they're ready for it. They've got a lot to process. They're constant thinkers.
And a lot of astrologers call them slow of thought, like they're not as smart as other people, especially with Taurus and Mercury. But one thing I've noticed, especially with Taurus and Mercury, or Mercury and Taurus, I said it backward. One thing I've noticed, it does take them a minute longer to learn what everybody else is learning. They do learn at a slower pace, but they will never forget what they learned. Whereas the average person, if they don't use what they learned, they will forget it. Taurus Mercury will not forget it ever, ever, ever. They learn it completely and thoroughly. Never, ever a surface learn with a Taurus.
You're gonna hear a lot of passion, but if the Taurus energy that the person is feeling at the time is the love, you'll hear a lot of communication about the love. But if the person is in the angry place, you're going to get a lot of angry, but amplify it. Or retrograde. It's going to be amplified.
And it's, yeah, we're about to have a stellium in Taurus, which means three or more planets. And let me see if I can see it in my head. And energy says it's all relative, isn't it? Yes, it is. So we're going to have a Taurus sun, um, uh, Taurus Mercury, and Taurus Jupiter. Well, we're already there. We have a stellium, so it is amplified.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of the Taurus Mercury is like sextiling with all the water in the transits right now. That Cancer Mars, that Pisces Saturn. So their emotions are being amplified as well. If you have Taurus energy, it's being churned up by Cancer and Pisces. And if you're one of those Taurus that does not choose to speak, you're having a rough time. Find someone you can trust, that you do trust already, that you have loyalty to, and even if all you say is then say it.
Yes, but try to elaborate on your Remember, like a Libra, Libras tend to think that everybody's a mind reader. When Taurus gets to that moment, they too feel that you should be able to read their mind.
And they think they've said a whole paragraph.
Yep, when going, sorry, this is not caveman days. I need more than a grunt. It worked when Taurus was new and the story was fresh. But we're in
Right?
23. I'm gonna need more than a and energy also said so say fast Sagittarius.
This was fun.
Exactly. But guys, we have run out of time. We've run out of time. That has been our hour of the story of Taurus with Mythology of Astrology. Again, we've got another one coming for you guys next month on Gemini. Again, like she said, it is going to be a longer one, but it's also bring the tissues.
Yeah, bring the tissues. Bring the
'Cause
tissue.
that is definitely one that she's got some things to talk about and give you guys the story, but I've also got some lores that go along with it. Some other stories that may not be ones that you've heard before, or some that if you are following pagan religion, you have heard these stories before as well.
Ooh.
And it comes with the natural order of the Gemini. It was called the Gemini Witch Clan.
I can't wait to hear this. This is new for me.
Yes, so I'm going to give you guys a little small story to go with this story that goes with the astrology, but I will definitely share with that story with you guys as well.
I'm so excited.
We gotta
Are
remember.
you going to send me down another rabbit hole?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know it, baby. You know it.
Yeah, I love the rabbit holes.
We've got a many of those going. Oh, wait a minute. What about this?
What
We're
about
really
this?
we like to research together, and by the time we're done researching, we got enough information to write a book.
Like 10 hours later, we were going to look at one thing.
Yes, and then it took us down another rabbit hole, and then another one. Oh, look at the side tunnel. Well, Squirrel, it has been beautiful being here with you. You tell these stories so amazingly, and
Thank you.
we've run out of time here, so we will be back again with Gemini. So, guys, stay tuned. Make sure you guys are following, subscribing, thumbs up, guys. Share this out as much as possible, and guys, we will see you on the next Mythology of Astrology with Astro Squirrel. When she's doing this part, she's Astro Squirrel.
Oh, yeah. I wear so many hats.
The woman with many names. With many Squirrel, thank you so much for your stories. They're absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to let you finish up as I get out of here.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and I really, really would love to thank Journey for letting me tell my stories on the platform that he provides. I appreciate everything you do, Journey, and I appreciate all of you guys for being here and having fun with me. And y'all look some of this stuff up. Get that bug to explore. It's awesome. I love you guys so freaking much. Mwah! Bye.